Hello and welcome to my channel. This video is about disassembling and diagnosing a motorcycle ignition switch. In this case it's from my Triumph Sprint. And for this I've taken out the triple tree with the ignition switch still attached to it. So what you need to do is look at this, and it has some screws that are basically rounded off. And what you can see here is I've used a Dremel tool with an already used cutoff wheel so that it has a smaller diameter to slit the screws to be able to just turn them out. The screws themselves are not really very tight, so this works rather well. You've got two screws holding the ignition switch on the triple tree and two screws which attach the mechanical and electrical parts of the ignition switch to each other. A common error with these bikes is that the ignition switch sometimes doesn't really give power, or gives power after a few seconds, or power can just go out while riding the bike, which is dangerous. So I'm disassembling the switch assembly and I'm trying to find out what the issue is. Sometimes the issue is with the wiring that comes after the ignition switch, and it's also possible that there's just contact corrosion inside of the electrical part of the switch as well. Also, the bolt for the steering lock is a bit weird to engage, and that's why I'm also taking apart the mechanical assembly of the switch, and I'm just lubricating everything with grease in there. So I've taken out the switch assembly from the triple tree, and after screwing out the other two screws, I've disassembled the electrical part from the mechanical part by just taking it off. Now I'm taking off this plate on top of the mechanical assembly. It comes off just by prying it off real easy, and inside you can see the parts of it. I'm showing how it works here, and to show how the steering lock engages, I need to put a little bit of pressure since I took out the plate. And as you can see, everything is in working condition, but it did need a little bit of grease. So now I put the lock in a position that I can take out the steering bolt and the piece on top, and the next piece just slides out really easy. It's this round piece, and inside you have another round piece from the lock which has a spring in it. I'm just showing it and putting it back in since I don't really need to disassemble it. And there's also this little square piece which also has a tiny spring inside of it. So I've just taken everything apart and looped everything up, and now I'm assembling it back together. You don't really see me lubricating it in the video because I've done it before I shot the video. So the small part has a little nose bit which I will show off here, and this little nose needs to go up so that everything works together. It's also really difficult to put this in properly without damaging the spring, because the spring needs to slide in. There's a little tapered edge for that, but it's kind of difficult to put this in. So if you assemble it, make sure it goes in smoothly and without too much pressure. Now I'm assembling the bolt that goes into the electrical part. This is also something that you need to make sure is sitting in the right way. There's a groove where the little bit from underneath that we put in earlier goes into, and it's also spring loaded, so when you put in the bolt you need to depress the assembly a little bit so everything fits together, and then you put the thing that locks the bolt in above it. And as you can tell, everything moves. You should also with every step that you do, check on whether everything is moving correctly, that the steering lock only engages when you press in the key, for example, so that it just can't engage all the time. and that everything just moves snugly and fits well and just feels correct. Now I'm moving on to the electrical part, and this is just plastic noses that need to be taken out of the plastic housings. So first we have a little cover which protects the contacts of the wires. You've got 3 noses that you need to pry out and be gentle about it. It's fairly easy, but you just need to make sure that you don't break any of the plastic. And after that there's an inner part of where the contacts are actually moved by the mechanical assembly and connect to each other. And for that you also have some noses that you need to remove. Now you can see all the parts of the electrical assembly here, and you can see I've got some corrosion on there. Because this bike has been sitting for a while, I guess just humidity made its way in there and corroded things. So I'm just gonna wipe it down, give it a little bit of a clean, and check if everything seems alright. Now the next thing I do after cleaning it a little bit is turn this part around where the wires go in and check whether the wire connections are solid to the contacts, or whether there's any just broken off wires or just any wiggle room. And after I've done that, which is something that I haven't recorded, is I took a multimeter and just checked all of the wires to see whether they have continuity going to the switch. And after that I've checked the switch positions themselves when I reassembled everything to make sure that the switch positions, just the contacts work in every position that you use it. Assembly is quite easy, just make sure that everything is in the right spot. You have 2 contacts up front that line up to contacts on the board, and you have a little bit of a nose in the plastic housing that shows you where everything goes, and it's just basically stick everything back together. As easy as that. So contacts go back in, cover goes back on to protect the wires, and last bit is just screw the whole assembly back together. And well, that's just taking apart and rebuilding your steering lock and your ignition switch. What you should also do after this, I haven't done it in this video, but I will do it afterwards, is replace those screws that I've grinded into with my Dremel tool. Because now that they're slitted, they're not really protected from corrosion, and it just looks better if you have nice new screws in. Non-rounded screws after fixing everything means that these screws obviously aren't as secure from just someone taking them out to replace your steering lock or steal your bike. But since this is already a 25 years old bike, I don't think that the dangers of that are really that high. Now with everything put back together, I'll make a final test to see whether I can switch every position and whether I can engage the steering lock. Steering lock itself is a bit of a weird position, which is just how it is on all of these models, but I can engage it a lot easier. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope I can see you on another video. Goodbye!